The Princess and the Ocean's Call. Princess Lila stood on the balcony of the royal palace, gazing out at the vast ocean that stretched endlessly before her. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in hues of pink and gold. But it was the ocean, with its mysterious depths, that always captured her heart. Lila, with her silver hair that shimmered like moonlight and eyes as deep as the sea itself, felt a unique connection to the water. It was as if the ocean whispered secrets only she could understand. Her gown, a soft blend of aquamarine and pearl white, seemed to shimmer in the fading sunlight, much like the waves below. It was as though she was part of the ocean, as if the very water flowed through her veins. The court had often whispered about her affinity for the sea. While other royals spent their time in the grand halls of the palace, Lila preferred to spend her hours near the water, listening to the whispers of the waves and the songs of the sea creatures. She was different, and while that made her a bit of an outsider in her royal family, it was her gift, the gift that she had yet to fully understand. It was on one such evening, as the moon began to rise, that Lila's destiny would begin to unfold. As she stood alone, deep in thought, a sudden breeze tugged at her hair, pulling her attention to the ancient map that had mysteriously appeared on her desk earlier that morning. It was a map she had never seen before, one that pulsed with a strange energy, beckoning her to follow its lines to a place no one spoke of, the lost crystal kingdom beneath the sea. The enchanted map. The map itself was unlike anything she had ever encountered. Its edges were frayed, and it had an ethereal glow, the lines drawn in silver ink that shimmered under her touch. As her fingers brushed across the delicate parchment, images began to swirl and dance before her eyes, visions of an underwater kingdom of crystals, bathed in an eternal glow, a kingdom that had been forgotten by time, hidden in the deepest recesses of the ocean. Lila knew of the stories, the legends whispered in the corridors of the palace. The Crystal Kingdom was said to be a place of immense power, ruled by a long-lost queen who could control the tides and the winds. But no one, not even her family, believed in its existence. To them, it was a myth, a tale for children. But Lila had always known there was more to the ocean than met the eye. The map showed a path, hidden from the view of ordinary sailors, that would lead her to the kingdom. She could almost hear the call of the ocean, urging her to follow. "Why now?" Lila whispered to herself. "Why me?" Her heart raced as she stared at the map, sensing that this was not just an adventure. It was her destiny. The ocean had chosen her, and she could not ignore its call. The secret journey. The next morning, Lila set her plans into motion. She could not tell anyone of her intentions, not even her closest confidant, Coral, a playful young dolphin who had always been by her side. The kingdom's council would never allow her to leave the palace on such a dangerous quest. With the map securely tucked in her satchel, Lila made her way to the docks. The sun had barely risen, and the streets were still quiet. She had already arranged for a small boat, just large enough to carry her and a few supplies. Her heart pounded as she stepped aboard, the salty air filling her lungs, invigorating her spirit. Coral greeted her with a joyful leap from the water, her scales glistening in the early light. The dolphin's playful nature belied the wisdom that lay beneath her surface. "Are you sure you're ready for this, Princess?" Coral asked, her voice soft but filled with concern. Lila nodded, her eyes determined. "I must know the truth, Coral. I cannot ignore the call." The dolphin smiled and nudged the boat forward with a gentle push. Together they set sail, leaving the shores of the kingdom behind. The shadow below. As they sailed deeper into the ocean, the waters grew darker, the waves more mysterious. The surface of the water was calm, but Lila could feel the pulse of the ocean beneath them, alive and watching. It wasn't long before they reached the area marked on the map. The sea was eerily quiet, and for a moment, Lila felt a sense of foreboding. She could not shake the feeling that something or someone was watching them. The water around the boat was unusually still, and the once vibrant colors of the ocean were now muted. "Stay close," Coral said, her tone suddenly serious. "We are not alone here." Lila's heart skipped a beat. She peered into the water, trying to see through the murky depths. Suddenly, a dark shadow darted beneath the boat, sending ripples through the water. It was massive, like a creature from the deepest part of the ocean, and Lila felt its eyes upon her, cold and unblinking. Before she could react, Coral sprang into action, darting beneath the boat and breaking the stillness of the water. "We need to move faster," she urged. "It's coming for us." Lila's pulse quickened as the shadow circled beneath them, growing larger with each passing moment. She knew they couldn't outrun whatever it was, but they had to try. With all her might, Lila grabbed the oar and began to row, the boat cutting through the water with increasing speed. The kingdom beneath the waves. After hours of sailing through eerie waters, Lila and Coral finally reached the entrance to the Crystal Kingdom. The surface of the water began to shimmer with a soft, glowing light, and the ocean's deep blue transformed into a palette of sparkling turquoise, emerald, and violet hues. The colors seemed to pulse with a magical energy, unlike anything Lila had ever seen before. It was as though the ocean itself was alive, breathing with an ancient and untold power. Lila's heart raced as they approached a colossal coral reef that seemed to stretch into the ocean's depths. The entrance was hidden behind a massive wall of glowing sea anemones, their tendrils undulating gracefully in the current. At first glance, it appeared to be just another part of the sea's natural wonders. But Lila knew better. This was no ordinary reef. This was the gateway to the Crystal Kingdom. Coral circled excitedly around the reef, urging Lila to follow. "This is it, Princess. The Crystal Kingdom awaits." With a deep breath, Lila steered the boat through the entrance. As they passed the glowing coral, a wave of warmth and energy flooded her senses. She felt a pull deep inside, like the ocean was embracing her, welcoming her into its hidden heart. The further they went, the more the water glowed, lighting the way with an ethereal radiance. The Crystal Kingdom. At last, they emerged into a vast underwater cavern that stretched as far as the eye could see. Above them, towering crystalline structures glittered, their jagged edges reflecting the light in dazzling patterns. The walls were lined with luminescent sea plants that swayed gently in the current, casting soft shadows across the floor. The kingdom was everything Lila had imagined and more. Floating jellyfish, with their soft, glowing tentacles, drifted by, while schools of iridescent fish danced through the columns of crystal. Strange and beautiful sea creatures, some with wings, others with long, flowing fins, moved about gracefully, as though they were living, breathing part of the kingdom itself. But despite the beauty, Lila couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The air, or rather the water, was heavy with a sense of sadness. The once vibrant colors of the kingdom seemed muted, the crystals dimmer than they should have been. Lila turned to Coral, who was swimming alongside the boat. "Why is it so quiet here? The kingdom feels different." Coral's voice softened, filled with sorrow. "The kingdom's magic is fading, Princess. The heart of the sea, which powers the entire Crystal Kingdom, is dying. Without it, this place will vanish into the abyss." Lila's eyes widened in shock. "But I thought the heart of the sea was a legend. Isn't it just a myth?" "It was never just a myth," Coral said. "The heart is real, and it is the source of all the kingdom's power, but it is in danger. Only someone pure of heart, someone who truly understands the ocean, can restore it." Meeting Queen Oceana. As they ventured further into the kingdom, they were greeted by the arrival of a majestic figure, Queen Oceana. She was unlike any creature Lila had ever seen. Her long, flowing hair resembled strands of seaweed, silver and green, swirling around her as if alive. Her skin shimmered like polished mother of pearl, and her eyes glowed with a soft, serene light. She wore a gown made of woven seafoam and shells, which seemed to move with the tides. Queen Oceana's presence was commanding yet peaceful. Her voice, when she spoke, carried the weight of centuries of wisdom. "Welcome, Princess Lila," Queen Oceana said, her voice echoing through the cavern. "We have been expecting you." Lila's heart skipped a beat. "You knew I was coming?" "Yes," the queen replied with a gentle smile. "The ocean has chosen you, Lila. You are the one who can restore balance to our kingdom. But before you can do so, you must pass 3 trials, each more difficult than the last." Lila's eyes narrowed with determination. "I'll do whatever it takes. What are these trials?" Queen Oceana's gaze became distant, as though remembering something from long ago. "The trials will test your bravery, your wisdom, and your compassion. Only when you have passed them all will you be ready to unlock the heart of the sea and restore our kingdom." The first trial. Bravery. Lila nodded, feeling the weight of her task settling on her shoulders. She was not afraid. This was her destiny, and she would not fail. The first trial was set in a dark, treacherous cave at the edge of the kingdom, where the water was cold and murky. Strange noises echoed in the distance, and Lila could feel her pulse quicken as they approached. The air was thick with an unsettling energy, as though the cave itself were alive. The entrance was guarded by a massive sea serpent, its scales glistening like polished obsidian. Its eyes were glowing yellow, and its mouth was lined with rows of razor-sharp teeth. The serpent hissed as it saw Lila, its long tail slithering menacingly through the water. "You must defeat this creature if you are to pass the first trial," Queen Oceana's voice echoed in Lila's mind. Lila stared at the serpent, her heart racing, but she knew she couldn't back down now. Drawing on all her courage, she swam toward the serpent, her heart steady despite the fear creeping into her chest. The battle was fierce. The serpent lunged at Lila with terrifying speed, but she dodged its strikes, using the skills she had learned from her years of swimming and diving in the royal waters. Using her magic pearl necklace, Lila created a bubble of light around herself, blinding the serpent and giving her the chance to strike. With a final powerful move, she used the light to bind the serpent's body, forcing it to retreat into the depths. Lila gasped for breath, her heart pounding, but she had succeeded. The first trial was complete. Cliffhanger for Part 3. After the battle, Queen Oceana appeared before Lila, her expression proud. "Well done, Princess. You have passed the first trial, but the trials are far from over. The second trial will test your wisdom, and the final one, your compassion." Lila nodded, her resolve stronger than ever. She had come this far, and she would not stop now. But as she swam toward the next challenge, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone, was watching her from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. The next day, Lila prepared herself for the second trial, the trial of wisdom. Queen Oceana led her to a secluded grotto deep within the kingdom, a place where the water was still and the air thick with the scent of ancient sea flowers. The walls of the grotto were lined with strange, glowing symbols that seemed to shift and change as Lila gazed at them. "You must solve the puzzle of the deep," Queen Oceana said, her voice calm yet filled with gravity. "Only when you prove your wisdom will you be able to face the final trial." Lila nodded and stepped forward. At the center of the grotto was an ancient stone pedestal, covered in intricate carvings that seemed to pulse with life. Upon the pedestal was a crystal sphere, clear as glass, but radiating an inner light. Around it were several smaller crystals, each a different color: red, blue, green, and purple. The symbols on the walls seemed to correspond to the crystals, and as Lila touched each one, it glowed in response. The question posed by the puzzle was clear: how to arrange the crystals so that the light from each crystal would combine to unlock the sphere's power. Lila thought carefully, her mind racing through the patterns and symbols she had seen throughout the kingdom. The answer was not immediately obvious. She had to think beyond simple logic. This puzzle required understanding the deep connections between the ocean's elements, the cycles of the tides, and the balance of nature itself. She slowly placed the crystals in a specific arrangement, starting with the blue crystal at the top, followed by the red, green, and finally the purple crystal. As she did, the room seemed to hum with energy, the symbols on the walls aligning with the crystal's glow. The sphere responded, its light intensifying, and then, suddenly, it clicked. The puzzle was solved. The water around Lila shimmered, and the once opaque sphere now glowed brightly, its surface rippling like water disturbed by a gentle breeze. The trial of wisdom was complete. "Well done, Princess," Queen Oceana said, her eyes shining with pride. "You have proven yourself worthy, but the final trial awaits, and it will test not your mind, but your heart." The final trial, compassion. The final trial took Lila deep into the heart of the Crystal Kingdom, to the sacred heart of the sea, the source of all the kingdom's power. The path leading there was treacherous, filled with jagged rocks and swirling currents. Lila swam cautiously, her heart racing, knowing that this trial would be her greatest challenge yet. When they finally arrived, they found themselves in a vast cavern, the walls shimmering with the soft glow of the kingdom's magic. At the center of the cavern was a large, ancient crystal, pulsating with energy but flickering weakly, as though it was on the verge of dying. Standing before the crystal was a figure cloaked in shadow, an entity that seemed to be made of pure darkness. Its eyes glowed with an unsettling light, and its presence seemed to drain the very life from the air. Lila recognized it instantly. "The shadow of the depths," Coral whispered, her voice trembling. "It's the very force that's been draining the kingdom's magic. It is the source of the curse." The creature stepped forward, its voice a low, echoing hiss. "You think you can stop me, Princess? You are nothing but a child of the sea. The heart of the sea belongs to me now." Lila's heart pounded as she faced the shadow, but she knew what she had to do. The final trial was not about defeating the creature with strength. It was about compassion. "You don't have to do this," Lila said, her voice steady but filled with empathy. "I know the heart of the sea is a part of you. It was never meant to be taken by force. You're hurting, but you don't have to remain in the shadows." For a moment, the shadow seemed to falter, its dark form flickering as if unsure of its next move. It had never been spoken to in such a way before. No one had ever shown it kindness. Lila extended her hand toward the creature, her heart filled with pure compassion. "The kingdom needs the heart, but so do you. The heart of the sea is not a weapon. It's a source of life, of balance. We can restore it together." The shadow hesitated, its form wavering. For a long, tense moment, nothing happened. But then, slowly, it began to shrink, its dark form dissipating like mist in the morning sun. The light from the heart of the sea began to grow, its once flickering glow now steady and strong. Lila felt a surge of warmth in her chest, a connection to the heart that transcended words. The shadow was gone, not because of force or violence, but because of understanding and compassion. Restoring the kingdom. With the shadow gone, the heart of the sea pulsed with vibrant light. The water around Lila shimmered with renewed energy, and the crystals of the kingdom began to glow brighter, their power returning. The sea creatures, once lethargic and distant, now swam with renewed vigor, their movements graceful and full of life. Queen Oceana appeared before Lila, her face filled with gratitude. "You have done it, Princess. You have restored the heart of the sea, and with it, the Crystal Kingdom." Lila smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace settle within her. It was not just me. It was the ocean, the creatures, and the heart itself. I only helped it find its balance again. The kingdom was no longer fading. The crystal towers gleamed brightly once more. The colors of the sea returned to their full brilliance, and the magic of the kingdom flowed freely. The curse had been lifted, and the balance of the ocean had been restored. A new beginning. As Lila swam back to the royal palace, the waves seemed to sing her a song of triumph. The sea had chosen her, and she had proven herself worthy of its trust. She was no longer just a princess. She was a guardian of the ocean, its mysteries, and its magic. Her bond with the ocean was unbreakable, and with it, she knew that the Crystal Kingdom would remain safe for generations to come. And so, Princess Lila's adventure came to an end. But it was only the beginning of a new chapter. The ocean, with all its secrets and beauty, would always be a part of her. And as she stood once more on the shores of the palace, she could feel the ocean's call, stronger than ever. She smiled, knowing that no matter where her journey took her, she would always be connected to the heart of the sea.